Clyde Ross.
Yes.
Tell us his story and why you decided to begin with him.
Well, Mr. Ross is really just emblematic of much of what's happened to African Americans across the 20th, and I emphasize 20th century. Mr. Ross was born in the Delta region of Mississippi. His family was not particularly poor. They were actually quite prominent farmers. They had their land and virtually all of their possessions taken from them through a scheme around allegedly back taxes, and were reduced to sharecropping. In the sharecropping system, there was no sort of assurances over what they might get versus what they actually picked. When I first met Mr. Ross, the first thing he said to me was he left Mississippi for Chicago because he was seeking the protection of the law. And I didn't quite understand what he meant by that, but as he explained it to me, he said, listen, there were no black judges, no black prosecutors, no black police. Basically, we had no law. We were outlaws. People could take from us whatever they wanted, and that was very much his early life. He went to Chicago thinking things would be a little different, and on the surface they were. He managed to get a job. He got married. He had a decent life, and was basically looking for that one more emblem of the American middle class in the Eisenhower years, and that was the possession of a home. Unfortunately, due to government policy, Mr. Ross at that time, like most African Americans around the country, was unable to secure a loan due to policies around redlining and deciding, who deserved the loans and who doesn't. There was a broad consensus that African Americans, for no other reason besides blanket racism, could not be responsible homeowners. Mr. Ross, as happens when people are pushed out of the legitimate loan market, ended up in the illegitimate loan market and got caught up in a system of contract buying, which is essentially just a particularly onerous rent-to-own scheme for people looking to buy houses, and ended up purchasing a house, I believe, at $27,000. I think he paid for it. The person who sold it to him had bought the house only 6 months before for $12,000. And Mr. Ross later became an activist, helped form the Contract Buyers League, and just fought on behalf of African-American homeowners on the west side of Chicago. I should add that it's estimated during this period that 85% of African-Americans looking to buy homes in Chicago bought through contract lending. There's a conventional way of talking about the relationship in America between the African-American community and the white community, and it's one that we're very comfortable with, and I call it basically the lunch table view. The problem with racism in America is that black people want to sit at one lunch table and white people want to sit at another lunch table, and if we could just get black and white people to like each other, love each other, everything would be solved. In fact, even these terms that we're using, black and white, are inventions, and they're inventions of racism. And if you trace back the history back to 1619, a better way of describing the relationship between black and white people is one of plunder, the constant stealing, the taking from black people that extends from slavery up through Jim Crow policies. I mean, slavery is obviously the stealing of people's labor. In some cases, the outright theft of people's children and the vending of people's children, the taking of the black body for whatever profits you can wring from it, up through the Jim Crow South, where you have a system of debt peonage, sharecropping, which really isn't much different, minus the actual selling of children. You are still exploiting labor and taking as much as you can from it, into a system when you think about something like separate but equal. In the civil rights movement, we traditionally picture, colored-only water fountains, white-only restrooms. But the thing people have to remember is if you take a state like Mississippi or anywhere in the Deep South where you have a public university system, black people are paying into that. Black people are pledging their fealty to the state, and yet they aren't getting the same return. This is theft. It's systemized. And when we try to talk about the practicality of it, I spent 16,000 words almost just trying to actually make the case. And at the end, what I come to is that, the actionable thing right now is to support Representative John Conyers' bill, H.R. 40, for a study of what slavery has actually done, what the legacy of slavery has actually done to black people, and what remedies we might come up with. And I did that not so much to dodge the question, but because I think to actually even sketch out what this might be would take another 16,000 words. I mean, we have to calculate what slavery was. We have to calculate what Jim Crow was. We have to calculate what we lost in terms of redlining, come to some sort of ostensible number, and then figure out whether we can actually pay it back, and if we can't, what we might do in lieu of that.